help me understand and help all of us kind of put together. You identified there are certain traits that a leader will need to navigate the top and the bottom part of the sandwich. Help us understand what those skill sets really look like. What do you need to be great at in a leadership role in 2022?
I think there's no doubt that listening and communication are near the top of the list. But the key, as it's always been, is building trust among your management team. Oftentimes, and too often today, by the time information gets through an organization and is presented to the CEO who makes the decision, he or she is under pressure from the top part of the Oreo, if you will, to make that decision and make the right decision, or at least a rational decision. It may not turn out to be right, but a rational decision based on information that he or she must have. The critical question that they should be asking, the CEOs should be asking, and we seek this with people who can unvarnish what I'm about to tell you. What's the question I need to ask that you're not telling me about? Okay, what do I need to know that you're not telling me? So communication and the ability to cogently identify information, figure out what's important and what's a priority and what isn't, putting aside all the morass of information that might be available. And because we're in a time of great change, the smart move for CEOs is to surround themselves with people who are disciplined in their thinking, but bring perspective and insight. And they're willing to look at ideas that aren't the norm or the de rigueur of their organization. Okay? And then they have to be able to understand how to play that in the organization. It's one thing to have ideas. It's another thing to say, well, how do we implement this and truly execute it? Because the truth is the real dollars fall from execution. They don't fall from ideas, okay? And most companies just aren't an idea, okay? They're composed of a number of different elements. So one has to look at the ideas and understand how we can execute it. And that's the ability to make an organization believe. Make an organization believe. And that's all about trust, especially now, because leaders have to be trusted. Organizations won't follow, or leaders won't stay. You know, the leaders who report to the very top, they won't stay if they don't believe that they're being listened to. They're building teams that will trust them, let alone their trust in their lead. Mm-hmm. So it is about trust, it is about discipline, and you have to have courage. Okay. Is it less about experience? To some extent, yes. Okay. Why? Okay. Experience, certainly when we do our work at CEO level and board level, they look at experience. Almost, I mean, that's the given, that's the table stakes. And I can tell you in almost any role that we might search for, we could find a number of people who will check the competence box that the client is seeking. The difference is fit. What are the 2 or 3 priorities that client has that have to be addressed over the next year? And how will this candidate, if selected, attack those, address them, attack them, so solve it? Through its complexity, through the unknowns, through the briar patches and what have you, so that it's going to take discipline and courage, and sometimes just saying, didn't get it done, now we got to change direction here. And that's what our clients are looking for. Okay, they're not looking for plug and play. You know, okay, we want a CFO who's done this, 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 and this. That's the table stakes. Okay, that's got to have those. But what they're really looking for is top teams that really function together and trust one another and bring different perspectives and insights. Because what's happening today isn't going to happen tomorrow. Best example of that is AI. Okay, AI. AI is going to impact every company. Okay, so if you're a unionized company today and you've got employees, what's going to happen when AI, when what the car companies started to do 20 years or 25 years ago, putting in robots and what have you, and having to renegotiate with the negotiators, what's going to happen when AI begins to do some of these tasks? There's work being done today, for example, that AI is even seeping into professional services. Some law firms are beginning to use AI to examine simple contracts. Orthopedic surgeons are beginning to use it because the AI can actually diagnose conditions probably faster and more effectively than the doctor's eye. Now, there's all kinds of societal questions around it. Who owns the data and is really HIPAA controlled? And you get into all of that. But point is, it's changing the way people work. Okay, and it's going to change the way leaders will have to lead. And that dislocation is going to suggest that people looking to the next step in their career have got to start thinking that it isn't linear any longer. I do this, so I'm prepared to do that, and therefore I could do this. And what it means, if you boil this all down, all the research shows that 70% of individuals making more than $100,000 a year are unhappy, uncomfortable, angry, frustrated, and so forth. And part of that frustration is this monumental change, which we knew was happening, but it was accelerated under COVID and continues to accelerate today. And so if you want to remain in that 70%, keep thinking linearly. Okay, the way out of it is to begin to develop those kinds of skills that help you lead in an uncertain and a world that's made up of employees. The sphere is the same, but the anxiety and then the know-how to put these pieces together, put Humpty Dumpty back together again, is really very much in vogue with the kind of clients that we serve. Now, it's hard to describe in any firm, any search. It's certainly not on the job description. But I can tell you the clients, when the job description is done, they put it away. They go to that scorecard and they look at those 3 things that we have to accomplish. And then they look at, well, that's what, then how? Okay, we've rationalized why, and we know what and why, but we don't know how. So that's what this individual has to bring.